Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Athena. I am a life coach who also specializes in healing from narcissistic abuse in the family. I am also training to be an art therapist, so I will be adding content soon all about art therapy and how this therapeutic modality can help you, especially in healing your trauma. Now, in today's video, I wanted to talk about the different changing roles that we see in a dysfunctional family system. Now, in previous videos, we've talked about the scapegoat child, we've talked about the golden child, we've talked about the invisible child, and of course, when we are in a dysfunctional family, we do tend to have one or the other. However, it is also common, depending on the parent's mood, that these roles can get shifted around and can change according to whether we are giving our dysfunctional parent the narcissistic supply that they need. Now, in this case, we're talking specifically about narcissistically abusive parents, ones that have a personality disorder, and parents that aren't able to empathize, aren't able to look at themselves in a deep way. They aren't able to see the mistakes that they've made. They aren't able to apologize. They aren't able to see the harm that they are causing their children. So we are talking about somebody who is very emotionally immature and has a personality disorder, most likely in the cluster B type. Now, it's very important to mention that children in a dysfunctional home are usually made to soothe or reassure their parents, or fill their egos in some way, or take care of them in some way, or fill this void that the parent feels. Because let's not forget, a personality disorder is usually because of childhood trauma, and this parent has a lot of unmet emotional needs in their childhood. So they will have a lot of issues with how to regulate, with empathizing. They will have been criticized, they would have been traumatized, but at the same time they may have been taught how to be entitled. So in a narcissistic family, a child can be given the role of a golden child, so the child that can never do wrong. And there is another child that will be maybe the scapegoat child, the one that is always at fault, that can never do anything right, and this child will be damned if he does something and damned if he doesn't. And then we also have the invisible child, the child that is completely neglected, that isn't noticed, that isn't spoken to, that isn't acknowledged, that isn't supported in any way. But of course, all of these roles can change, and this depends on the narcissist in the moment. What does the narcissist need, and is that child actually meeting that need? Even if a child is selected as the golden child, the minute that golden child doesn't do what the parent wants, then it can become the scapegoat. Depending on the parent's narcissistic supply, the child's role can change. Also, it's important to mention that narcissistic parents will treat their children differently in public and behind closed doors. So it may be that the parent is always bragging about their son when they are in public or when they're at school. They may say what a wonderful, creative, intelligent child they are. They may talk about how wonderfully they're doing and how proud they are of that child. But the minute that child gets back into the parent's car and heads home, that parent will treat the child differently. That parent will start telling the child how there's other kids that are doing much better and that they're really not as good as they think they are. And how dare they think that they're better than everybody else. So of course you can imagine, right, for a child, how confusing this must be. Unfortunately, all that a narcissistic parent cares about is how they look in public. They don't care what they do behind closed doors. They don't care how they really treat their child. All they care about is their ego and how this child can give them a need that they need met. Unfortunately, In private, this parent may be extremely envious of their child's success and try to tear them down. And this is extremely soul-destroying for that child. They are just a puppet in the narcissist's life. The narcissist uses the child in public to make the narcissist feel good, to boost their ego, to make them look like a good parent. But the minute they're at home, that doesn't matter anymore, and the child is not really that important anymore. And of course, this feels horrible for the child, right? The child realizes that it is only loved or good if it does what the parent wants. That if it doesn't do what the parent wants, or if it tries to outshine the parent, well, the parent is not going to be happy. They are going to be mean. They are going to try and sabotage things. They are going to be extremely cruel to that child. It doesn't matter what the child has tried to do. They will never be able to make that parent happy, because that parent can't ever be happy. They don't have a fully formed sense of self. So how can they live in this world and be content if that's how they are, right? They will always need puppets around them. And in this case, their children are their puppets. They are there to serve a purpose. Children are extensions of a narcissist. They are not individuals, separate individuals with their own needs and own personalities. It's also important to mention how awful it is when children have been assigned roles. This will, of course, affect the relationship between the siblings. So the golden child may gang up against the scapegoat child with the parent. So that scapegoat child will have a lot of nasty behavior, not just from the parent, but also from the golden child. And of course, this can follow them into adulthood. The scapegoat child or the invisible child may end up in relationships where once again they are with someone who is abusive, who is neglectful, who is hurtful, or somebody who ignores them. So if they are the invisible child, they will end up in a romantic relationship where they feel invisible. The golden child, if they have continued to have a lot of the same traits that they had when they were in the family, because they were trying to survive this relationship with the parent, they may become narcissists themselves and struggle in adulthood and maybe attract other narcissists and have very dysfunctional and unhealthy relationships. There are obviously occasions where a golden child may at some point just feel that they've had enough with the parent. They want to be their authentic self. They want to lead life in a way that makes them happy, and they may cut all ties with their parent. They may start their healing. They may do a lot of work on themselves so they can actually feel good enough without having to always do what someone else wants them to do. They'll have such deep insecurities, but they will want to change. The truth teller child, on the other hand, might be able to do quite well in their adult life. They may continue telling the truth. They may fight for things that are right. They may fight against things that are wrong. They will do everything they can to make the world a better place. But they may also find it hard because of low self-esteem or because of lack of acceptance in their childhood. They will never have been validated. So they will end up in relationships where, again, they are not validated. Their emotions are not important. And then, of course, let's not forget that in a family unit that is dysfunctional, there is also a child that takes on the role of trying to fix everything. So they will be rescuers. They will constantly end up in relationships where they're trying to rescue the other person. So it may be that they end up with an alcoholic partner or a generally very abusive partner or a partner that shows no emotion. They will be in relationships where they are having to work for their partner's love, where they are trying to fix their partner. And they will feel this intense need to fix in order to be loved. And this isn't healthy either. So all of the roles that we take on in our family system will affect us into adulthood. And this is why it's extremely important to understand the family dynamics in a dysfunctional family and try and heal ourselves. Try and do what we can to wake up to the dysfunction, to create awareness in our lives about what role we may have played. What do we tend to do in our adult life? Do we see patterns in the ways that we behave with partners, with friends? Do we always put everybody else first and ourselves last? Do we have trouble with setting boundaries or saying no? Do we have difficulty people pleasing? Are we completely terrified of conflict, and do we avoid it at all costs? These are all very important patterns of behavior that we need to pay attention to. And if we do pay attention and we do figure out what our type is, we can then heal. We can use the right strategies in coaching or counseling with somebody who understands these family dynamics and can support us in improving our life, in becoming more authentic, and in becoming more happy. Now, if you would like to share your experience with this, if you identify as being in any of these roles in your childhood, if you were in a position where you may have been the scapegoat, and then you were the golden child, and then you were the invisible child, and these things sort of shifted, I would love to hear your experience with this, because it will help others as well. That is the end of the video today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.